Thank you, Prem. Thank you, old friend. The cat is already out of the bag. I was not supposed to be here, and when I was told that Salim Safi is not coming, I had a couple of reactions. Let me start with them. The first is that it is so indicative of the Pakistani scene. The civilians abdicating, not appearing, the military has to fill in the gap. So now you know why it happens. The second is, and how can I resist the temptation of taking a dig at my Indian friends? I have so many of them that they have learned not to take my digs too seriously. They live with it, laugh it out. I'm so lucky, fortunate. And that's what I told the brigadier. I said, no, I don't think Salim Safi is missing because of any natural reasons. Whether it's raw or the Indian design, he's been abducted somewhere. He's going to be kept in custody so that the army and the ISI can be put in the dock. Very well done. And the third is, I'm very grateful actually, very gratifying, that I get this platform where I don't get such a platform back home, where I can do a little bit of media bashing. The media, I do not know how people came to the conclusion that we, the military and the ISI, control it. If you listen to our media, I think Professor Rasool Bashrais made a very brilliant effort of saying that we could not possibly do it. Actually, it happens the other way around. They are the ones who haul us over the coal, and we nowadays have no idea what to do about it. So not even a platform is provided, even though one has, believe it or not, written a couple of things about what I think of the media. So grateful that you provided me this platform. But before I do that, in all fairness, who am I to talk about media? I must start with what some of my journalist friends, there are friends in journalism that I have, I can tell you that. If a gun is put at my head, I can even take their names. But there are two of them. One is sitting here, but he was not the one. He told me once, many years ago, not many years ago, a couple of years ago, he says, some of the Indian channels, by policy, will hold a discussion. They'll try to get one person from Pakistan, usually, the satellite link, and if he turns out to be a Fauji, a military man, so much the better, and their design is to grill him, to humiliate him. But another person actually made a much better remark. And when I complained, I said, this seems to be happening. She said, why do they go on such programs? It's actually a very good observation. So you think that if this is the program, if this is the agenda of a particular channel, and again, one can take the name of a couple of channels, then it is our, illusion of some of us that we sit there and we'll say, we will go on this panel, we'll try to put across the Pakistani view, we will defend against ourselves, against the might of India, etc., etc. This is a illusion. It doesn't happen. But all the same, some people would come, people do it. The real remark I have reserved for the Pakistani media. She is not a journalist, but she holds a PhD in strategic studies. She heads a think tank in Islamabad. An enlightened, very enlightened lady. By no stretch of imagination, a sympathizer of the Taliban. And I just, loosely asked this question in a round, and I said, what is more dangerous for Pakistan? The Taliban, and I'm talking about TDP, or the media? Without a moment's hesitation, she said, media. And I said, why? Now this logic has to be understood. What can the TTP do? Kill some of us? That's about all. And for a particular, for a temporary period of time, another few years, this phenomena would have gone. But our media ultimately manages to poison the whole society. Her version, not mine, except that I would not have quoted it unless I found some wisdom in it. But now let me see if I can put the whole thing in perspective as objectively as possible. Prem has said I should give my perspective. We'll try to be positive, objective. The start was very good. I remember those days when the Pakistanis, could not even start a day or a cup of tea without a newspaper in their hand. So they are waiting, and the newspaper hawkers, they always would say, come, hail, high water, or whatever, said, we must deliver because my client is waiting. He would not even start the day. Or on a toffee shop or a tea shop, they'll share, one paper because everyone cannot afford it, and they're sharing their pages and reading it. And they did it because they wanted to find out what's happening. It became perhaps an addiction with some people. But most importantly, the print media, and Professor Rasool in the morning said, still objective. But in those days, the print media and also the electronic media when it started, it concentrated on some of the very important subjects. I remember that people, instead of, spending time, even news was not important. They would go for those social programs. The themes where some of the brave producers spent time finding out about the drugs, about problems within the family and so on. Those were the themes that used to be handled. It's not nostalgia, ladies and gentlemen. Nothing of that. We've seen that. And then comes another period, and it was inevitable. The media landscape proliferates. Channels. One would say it's a good thing, more the merrier. But does one looking also at the cost of this proliferation? Cost means the quality that is available gets diluted, gets divided. Even that may not be too bad, considering that, more people will get an opportunity. The competition, you call it competition, I'll call it rat race. The rat race starts between channels who can get more noise produced. I think you said that about the noises. Someone did talk about, the more noisy the thing, the better attention one would get, etc., etc. So if that is the reason, they will try to produce more noise. Does it get more revenue? Does the rating go up? Do they get more advertisements? I have no idea. But that seems to be the trend. That has been the trend for quite some time. Till. And inevitably, nothing lasts forever. Till. And there is another thing on which I would agree with Mr. Dixit. And that is, the media was not going to self-correct itself. They did talk about the need to, self-accountability, introspection, etc., and balancing and so on and so forth. They were not doing it because either the channels or the revenue or the rating, something kept them busy. The thing that probably seems to be turning the media around is the reaction of the audience. People are no longer watching those so-called talk shows. They're turning more into circuses. The same people performing here, after that they'll get up and go and perform somewhere else. And the same theme, almost the same rhetoric. The din never stopped, and people switched that off. If it did any good or any good to the producers, I have no idea. But it certainly took the peoples away. Their blood pressures came down. They started watching the cartoons or the sports. Even some people who got back to that original enthusiasm that they used to have for the dramas. Now, if that is going to make any difference, we'll still have to see. But ladies and gentlemen, in the meantime, a subject of my interest, or subjects of my interest, the security-related ones, on that the discussion never took off. And the result is, because if you have, I do not know, 50, 60 channels doing this, and you want to have about 4 panelists on every one, now who is going to find 200 experts to talk about the militancy in the Fatah, or on Afghanistan or relations with India. No. So that will bring up the fly-by-night analysts. They'll come, they'll share their wisdom with us, and in the meantime, everyone is that much the poorer. Probably the biggest loss was, and that's something that has been told to us so often. We have narratives and narratives. What's your narrative? I don't think in a country like Pakistan with that much of diversity we can come up with a single narrative. It's not that type of a country where you will, just make one a narrative, program everyone with this, and after that we will all speak with that voice. It's not going to happen. We actually do not even do that minimum, briefings or coordination, so that at least once you want to talk about a subject, let's give an informed opinion. So the war of narrative, as of now, and this was so apparent also in the morning session, the way questions were being asked, because that's the narrative you probably have been receiving either from there or from here. So that is one narrative. The counter narrative, either absent or not credible, because it is a very minimal voice somewhere. Another thing that might have helped, and here I am not even claiming to try to be objective, and that is that with this thing happening on the media landscape, if sometimes some of the channels will go for the throat of some others, don't you think that we will sit back and enjoy the fun? We'll say, we can't sort them out. If within themselves, if that strife has started, if something good would come out. And that happened during the last about few months, perhaps. I have no idea how it is going to end. I am not a media watcher. No claim on being a specialist. But at least, again I said, not from a very objective point of view, but at least from that particular narrow perspective from which one was looking at, the type of discussion taking place, if it has taken them away, again, those people who think that we control the media, watch out. The attention was diverted from the so-called military bashing, and they went on to either the politics or gunning for the other channel and so on and so forth. So on that front, the attention has reduced. Another thing that has also, helped to reduce the heat in the military is because the last few months, military did something which seems to be popular. Not that it did not take over despite all the provocation, but it has carried out the operation that people were wanting. Now, it's futile for me to say why it took place now and not earlier. I have reasons to believe that it is much better that it was done now than every time people shouted that the militants are there and the military goes gunning with a contingent, with a posse to that place. That does not happen. Plenty of preparation is required. The political, the military preparation, the local administration and so on and so forth. And with so many different groups against the state interest, you can not be taking on all of them. You have to prioritize it. But since it has happened, the big operation has happened, that has also brought down the temperature. Probably the last point that one wants to make. Coming back to another Indian friend of mine, when he said only the other day, and when I said, well, this is the temperature that I found on the Indian channels, that chap said, but why creep? This is what the Indian audience wants. And especially if you think that the English channels in India are doing a little more of that, it is because that audience that listen to that want that to be said. This is the sentiment, post-Bombay or whatever. Now my question is going to be to people who are here and who understand the media. Is that the role of the media? Should it only be responding to what the people desire? Or is it possible for them to at least try and, if not lead the public opinion, suggest a few different versions, narratives, and let people make up their own mind? And this is one thing that one has learned over a long period of time. By lecturing, by forcing anything down people's throat, you do not change perceptions, you do not change opinions. By giving them few credible options, narratives, and encouraging to make up their own mind, ultimately they'll probably come to the right conclusion. Thank you very much.